Hi, everyone. Welcome to Reporters Roundtable. It's episode number 107 in our normal spot on Friday at 10 a.m. Hey, what a week it has been. It was such a week we had to do a special emergency show a couple of days ago on what was happening with SOPA and all the site blackouts. But you know what? That story just will not die. It is so interesting what's happening, and the effects of the SOPA and the PIPA backlash have been epic, and that's what we're talking about today. The House delayed the vote on these bills. Sponsors are ditching it. Megaupload got taken offline. Anon has gone nuclear and attacked government sites. And if you think these episodes, these news events are unrelated, you're wrong. They're all tied together. That's what we're talking about today, and I am so excited about this show because this is why we do the Roundtable. All the experts who know this stuff are here working with us at CNET, and I've got them all on the line with me right now. First, in the studio, Eleanor Mills, security reporter. Thanks, Eleanor, for joining us. Sure. Via Skype, again, Declan McCulloch, our political correspondent. Thank you, Declan, for dialing in again. Declan, you're muted.
Apologize, I'm back now, and now you'll wish I were muted.
No, never. Thank you for joining us. And then we have Greg Sandoval from a secret undisclosed location somewhere deep in the heart of New York City who covers Hollywood and the media for us. Greg, thank you for dialing in.
Oh, don't say that, because now my girlfriend's going to say, where were you?
Okay. Anyway, thank you guys.
I'm glad to be here.
Greg, by the way, achieved an epic win here at CNET. He had 3 stories on the front door of CNET.com, CNETnews.com this morning, which is unheard of. Congratulations, Greg.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
He works, I don't know, we work him too hard. Anyway, listen, we have to get into the news here. First of all, an update on what's happening with the Protect IP Act and SOPA and the site takedowns, the effect that those takedowns or the self-blockings have happened. So Wikipedia, Craigslist, other sites went dark. Declan, what has the, in brief, if possible, the effect of those takedowns been?
Well, I've been saying all along that some version of SOPA in the House, some version of Protect IP in the Senate is going to go forward, even if it's a modified, watered-down version. And it looks like I was wrong. It's too early to say. The situation is still really fluid, but the protests, this is the Wikipedia blackout, the Google, Amazon homepage statements, this has changed the political dynamic in Washington. It's become much more a Democrat-backed bill. The Republicans are vanishing in terms of their support for it. And this is stalled. Whether it's going to resume, I don't know. But for right now, the internet has won a temporary victory.
Now, Greg, what's so interesting about this is that these bills have been pushed by the content industry, by Hollywood, by the folks that you cover. What has been the reaction in your industry to this backlash against these bills?
Well, they're like everybody else, everybody in D.C., everybody that's ever watched politics for any length of time. They're stunned. I was told from September of 2010 that this bill in some form was going to get passed. Wide bipartisan support. The president was behind it. The vice president was behind it. They were going out saying online piracy file sharing. They were comparing it to smash and grab stuff. All these guys were telling me this is a slam dunk. In some form it was going. And, I mean, we have to realize what happened here. They were routed. I mean, am I giving them too much credit here, the technology sector, and what happened, what we saw this week? They were killed. This grassroots effort came from nowhere and pushed back all of the support. And we saw people dropping off left and right, lawmakers dropping off left and right. So I think the mood in Hollywood is one of shock. And absolutely, I think it's dismay. They didn't know what they were running into, and they don't know how they're going to react going forward.
All right, we'll come back to that in a second. We still got to cover just a little bit more of the news here on this. Then Megaupload. Was that yesterday or the day before? When that was?
That was yesterday.
Yesterday. So Megaupload was shut down by the U.S. government, and arrest warrants have been served around the world, in New Zealand, I think, to get the people who run Megaupload brought to justice. They're jailed now. Tell us briefly, fill us in on that news, and let's talk about how that's related to this in a nutshell. So what happened with Megaupload? What is Megaupload, and who took it down and why?
Megaupload is a cyber locker, a very popular cyber locker where people, millions of people all over the world, the site was attracting nearly as much or traffic as comparable to YouTube. Mm-hmm. So people would go there and they would store their video files, mostly video files, TV shows, movies, and they would store them in their cyber lockers. But the twist here is that they would also allow other people to go in and view these movies. And these are unauthorized or pirated copies, the movie industry and the FBI allege. Mm-hmm. So the man who runs it is one of the most colorful characters we've seen in a long time, a man by the name of Kim.com. He was born Kim Schmitz, a German. He runs it. He says it's legitimate. He says he takes down pirated materials when he's notified by the copyright owner, which is what the DMCA says. The feds weren't buying it. The movie industry has long complained to them. Mm-hmm. This guy's just, it's a sham. And they've been asking the government to come in there and do something about it. And yesterday they did.
Do you
think his home? Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Is the timing cannot be coincidental? Yes?
No, and I don't believe that either.
Tell me more.
I believe the president, and I'd like to hear what Declan thinks about this too. The president turned his back on SOPA and PIPA after making all kinds of supportive statements about anti-piracy, mm-hmm. and he upset a lot of people. My sources in Hollywood say, they're going to react. They've been donating money for decades to Democratic candidates and campaigns, and they're going to turn off the spigot. And I think the president, to kind of help save face and maybe save some of those relationships, kind of prodded the FBI and the Justice Department to move. Now, they've been working on this for months. I was told about this, that there was something happening with Megaupload months ago. Mm-hmm. And I think that they moved in the wake of what was going on with SOPA. That's my belief.
Okay, now, we're going to get into more details and all this stuff, but first we have to wrap out the week with what happened in response to this. So first we have the very powerful people on the internet who are running big sites in protest taking down their sites and making them unavailable for 24 hours in reaction to these bills. Then we have Megaupload being taken offline by the federal government, which seems to be sort of in reaction to what's happening with the bills. And then we have Anon sending their flying monkeys out over the internet and taking down government sites. Eleanor, what happened there?
Yeah, very swiftly after the Megaupload news of the indictments and arrests came out, the Twitter accounts of Anonymous were just going crazy, and they were behind the scenes, just going into attack mode, and they went after government sites. DOJ was one of the first, I think, to go, and MPAA. And they had others in their sites, and throughout the afternoon and evening, sites were going offline. A music industry, movie industry, and in France too, Vivendi France, a couple other sites. And it was sort of a struggle that they were struggling to keep them back up. They'd go back up and they'd go back down again.
So, Anon, a bunch of activist hackers, loosely connected, managed to take down the DOJ site, a denial of service attack on the DOJ?
Yeah.
This cannot end well. Now we're up to date, okay? That's what's happened so far. Has there been any news this morning that's related to this that we need to know about?
Well, the only interesting tidbit is they were very successful. They had a lot of activity in people, who were participating in the DOS attacks. But it also turns out that they were using previously you had to download a tool called the LOIC, Low Orbit Ion Cannon, and that would allow you, then you knew you were going to participate in the DOS attack. Well, now they were distributing links on Twitter that when you clicked that and you arrived at the page, instead of getting what you'd think would be, maybe a press release from Anonymous talking about what they're doing, you'd actually get to a page where if you had JavaScript enabled in your browser, you would automatically be participating in the attack without even knowing it. So they were probably getting a lot of help from unwitting computers, people who didn't know that they were participating just by clicking on this link.
Really?
Yeah.
So that sounds like a virus. Anon was
well, I
using a
mean,
virus.
you could
or a drive-by rather.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, basically, you're clicking a link and you don't know what's happening, but your computer is attacking, the DOJ.
Okay. So Anon's attack or reaction to the events of this week, both a technical and to a large extent a social success, because in addition to those botizing of people's computers. There were also a lot of people who obviously very much wanted to participate in this attack. So it was both a technical and a social success. And it looks like from here that we now have battle lines lining up, a huge battle being drawn between the people who are opposed to content restriction, censorship, and on the one hand, and maybe the government on the other, because they're now getting attacked and they've got these bills which are in trouble. And of course, there's a lot of factions in the government which are moving around and changing sides. And then we've got the content industry who, I don't know who seem to be the puppet masters. Is that the way this is going? Who are the major contestants in this battle? Declan, then Greg.
If you look at the amount of enthusiasm that the companies and trade associations have spent on this, the top one is the Motion Picture Association of America, the major movie studios. And then that's followed probably by the Recording Industry Association of America, and then maybe followed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. But they've been kind of silent on this. They were very active in December, but after Republicans started dropping off or expressing concerns, the Heritage Foundation said this week, this is the iconic conservative think tank, that if you vote for SOPA or Protect IP, they're going to score that negatively against you in their ranking of Congress that a lot of conservatives pay attention to. So this is not entirely being driven by Hollywood, but in terms of who's really out there and saying we really need this, yeah, it's kind of them. On the other hand, it's not just internet companies. The one major website that went dark, took its content more or less offline, unless you're blocking JavaScript, was Wikipedia, which is not a company. It's the Wikimedia Foundation. It's Wikipedia's own users and active contributors voted to say we're going to do this, which is unprecedented in the U.S.
Greg, the content industry, Hollywood, as you said, they feel they must be rocked back on their fat leather chairs or whatever it is, or the Eames chairs, feeling routed, as you said. What do you think the reaction is going to be? Now, the content industry, of course, has blocked or tried to block in the past other media types that enabled individuals to share and distribute content, mostly in analog form, and now they're taking on digital. What do they do next now that apparently the work they put into getting the government basically to take their what they wanted to do seriously and put these bills out there, now that didn't work, what's next?
Okay, well, let's distinguish between their attempts in the past to, take out VHS, whatever,
yeah,
between or from piracy, right?
Okay.
Online piracy is just people taking movies that they didn't pay for, that they're not compensating the creators. This is something different. As far as your question about what they do now, I don't think anybody has any idea. I think the first thing they're going to do is kind of gather up and take a measure of how much support they have left, and then see if they can find some common ground with the opposition, and see if there's any way that they can come out with something that's of value. I've been told, my sources said, if they're only offered scraps, the offer on the table is only going to be something that's not really going to help address the problem, that they would just forget about it. They would drop it, come back again with something when they feel like they have more support.
But they felt like they had support for this. They had the Democratic White House behind them, and even many Republican supporters. Am I not correct on that? And now that's
wide bipartisan support.
Yeah. So, and that was undone by the people?
They say Google. They're pointing their fingers. Everybody on that side, on the supporters, are pointing their fingers, including Rupert Murdoch, at Google.
Now, that's
Google
interesting.
finances them. Yes, no, there's no question.
But
they say that Google helped fan the flames. They made pitches to other tech companies. They were donating to both parties, especially the Republicans, because they've been soft there. Their accusations are that Google is the one that's really killed us.
That's really interesting, because I remember when Google bought YouTube, and it was obvious that the content would be valuable for Google, but it looked like they were just buying a big bucket of lawsuits, because at the time that Google acquired YouTube, YouTube was under massive assault from content industries for pretty much exactly the same thing we're talking about right now. Isn't that right?
Yes, and they won. and they won. At least they won the first round.
Now, I want to tie that into what's happening a little bit with Megaupload right now. When YouTube was under assault, Google and YouTube, and then Google owned YouTube under assault, those were all civil. Those were nobody was put in jail for what YouTube was alleged to be doing. Why is Megaupload being treated as a criminal?
That's what Megaupload's attorney asked me today. Why are they doing this to our guys when YouTube was able to have a hearing in court, in one court, and in our case, he says they're showing up with flak jackets on and guns out and knocking down doors. That's their question, is how come there's such a difference? Now, there was never any charges in the YouTube case of money laundering or racketeering. But this is something different. We're seeing something different. We're seeing the U.S. government test these piracy laws and enforcing them overseas. They're saying Megaupload was an American company because it had its servers, or under American jurisdiction because it had its servers in Virginia. That's going to be a test. They're saying that these copyright laws are violated, and there's international laws that support them, or some international laws. I don't know all the arguments yet, but there's nothing absolute about this case, according to Megaupload's attorney. This is something they haven't done before, and it's new ground. We'll have to see.
Declan, in D.C., what has the response been to, or what is the take on the Megaupload criminal charges? Is this because DOJ or whomever got their nose bloodied with SOPA and Protect IP? Is this a tantrum reaction, or is this logical?
I think that Greg is probably right in saying that the timing is no coincidence. When you have the administration wanting to show that they're doing something, this is the response. Now, in terms of the criminal charges, this probably could be interpreted as an example of why you have a very broad copyright system that has a lot of power given to the Department of Justice and copyright holders, and you have to trust them to exercise it responsibly. There's a 1997 law called the No Electronic Theft Act that says that sharing movies, music, whatever, even if it's with a member of your family, can be prosecuted as a federal felony. And that's the law that was invoked here. There's and one other response to the Google point, what the supporters of Protect IP and SOPA have done, tried to do, is say this is just Google. Google's the company behind opposition to it, and that's why Lamar Smith had Google, only allowed Google and only Google to testify at the hearing a few months ago, and so Google has some baggage. It has the YouTube case, it has Google Books, and so it's relatively easy for Republicans, Democrats to say Google doesn't really believe in copyright law. Therefore, let's ignore what they're saying about SOPA and Protect IP. In reality, this is not Google. It's pretty much a lot of folks on the internet versus a very few number of people in Washington, D.C.
Now, going back to the nuclear issue here, this has been a week of big actions and bigger reactions, and I don't think we're done yet. Eleanor, the federal government whose sites came under attack cannot sit back and let Anon walk all over their sites this way. How is the Gov likely to react to this, if in any way? Oh,
there could be arrests. I mean, they brought in arrests after other attacks on, Sony and other companies. So they're probably going to add, this information and try and go after people who organized or, coordinated this if they can.
Declan, going back to D.C. here, what do you hear from the White House?
Not a whole lot. I wish that they were more forthcoming. This is a delicate balancing act for President Obama and the White House in general, because what they've been able to do historically, at least nobody has been able to do this in the Republican side since Bush in 2000. What they've been able to do on the Democratic side is get money from both Northern California, Silicon Valley, and Southern California, Hollywood. And now Obama's being put in the position that he's going to have to choose one or the other. and there's going to be some political consequences no matter what he does. That's not a position he probably wants to be in. It would be a lot better for him if this bill just went away. And so I think that's probably what led to some pressure being put on Senator Reid to say, okay, let's not go ahead with this floor vote. Maybe we can find something else to do. How about more healthcare reforms? Just kidding.
Right. Because that's such a unifying issue. All right, guys, let's wrap it up here with what's going to happen next week. I mean, this week we had sites going offline. We had arrests in New Zealand. We've had Anand going nuclear. What do we have to look forward to? Eleanor?
I predict another data breach next week.
Yeah? Okay.
I don't know who or what, and it may not surface to the news, but there will be actually more than one.
And a non-based data breach?
Oh, no, I don't think so necessarily. I mean, I think they're doing a lot of political activity and protests, but the data breaches in general, especially the ones that stay under the radar, are the real criminals who are just trying to siphon off your money. Mm-hmm. So you won't hear about it, you won't know who they are, and eventually, hopefully, they'd get arrested.
But that's not related to this, or that is related to this?
No.
Okay, related to this. Because, yeah, we're going to have another... now that everybody's busy looking at this story, it's a great time to be a criminal. All the cops are over here. Go to the 7-Eleven.
They'll go after key supporters. They went after Christopher Dodd's website. Right. They could attack sites of other people, or even leak their information.
By the way, just as a side note here, before we do wrap up, Senator Dodd, the MPAA chairman, sent out a statement saying, "We applaud those leaders in Washington who have chosen to stand with the millions of hardworking Americans all across this nation whose livelihoods are threatened by foreign criminal workers designed to steal." Declan, I take it you've seen this statement. It seems a little tone deaf to me, or am I misreading it? Did he hit the right tone on his note in reaction to what's happened with Protect IP and SOPA lately?
I think that you're probably right, that it is a bit tone deaf. Talking about this is just criminal operations, that phrase appeared in his statement. It's not just criminal operations. I mean, you saw how the Department of Homeland Security seized a New York music blog and then said, whoopsie, a year later, after the domain's been offline for a year, and returned to Jazz to its rightful owners. And what's really happening here is that in the last 10 years or so, Hollywood has pretty much gotten its way when it comes to copyright law, with one exception. When they propose something, they lobby it well, they do the right briefings. Maybe some members of Congress will be invited to gala dinners with Richard Gere. That was the MPAA gala dinner with Richard Gere. Maybe Lamar Smith, author of SOPA, will show up on stage at a RIAA or similar event. That happened too. And they just have done this really, really well, and they expected to succeed here just because that's their history. And so they were just taken by surprise. They were rolled by the internet, and they just don't know what to do.
Rolled by the internet. Greg, what do you expect to hear from New York and Southern California in the next week in reaction to all this?
Well, I think the big story coming next week will be whether the United States government can bring Kim.com and his alleged associates in Megaupload to the United States. And just listening to, I was watching New Zealand TV shows last night. It sounds like authorities there are very much cooperating with U.S. officials. So expect to see, a fight, but he could end up here, and we will see some kind of trial with .com, Megaupload, in the United States.
All right, one last question for anybody who wants it. What does this mean for the average online human being? For you and me, people who watch TV shows, do a little bit, say you get a nice MP3 track, you like it, you send it to a friend, you subscribe to Netflix, mostly legit every now and then by mistake, a little bit of illegitimate content sharing going on. What does this mean to you and me?
The status quo continues.
You think, huh?
For now.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Nothing changes. Nothing changes.
Nothing changes.
Okay.
If you're talking about the citizen, nothing changes. But everybody I talked to in the studios is pointing towards a sales decline in their home video market. Business isn't very good. I know a lot of the opposition says that's their own mismanagement, whatever, but everything just shows and points, as far as they're concerned, towards a decline in the business. And I think you're going to see Hollywood, the TV networks, the music labels, start to tighten the belt and start to make, a point that they can't afford to absorb piracy forever.
It's also interesting to me. It's a big bear being backed slowly and ever more slowly into a tighter and tighter corner. It's very interesting how this is all playing out. I think it's going to take a couple of years, and we'll see. And then there'll be a new technology to worry about. Eleanor Mills, thank you so much for joining us. Declan McCullough, Greg Sandoval, thanks, guys, for a really interesting Reporters Roundtable. I'm Rafe Needleman in San Francisco. Thanks, Stephen, for producing. We'll be back on Friday, unless something else big happens before then, with another Reporters Roundtable. You have comments on the show, please email me, rafe@cnet.com, or follow me on Twitter. That's RAFE. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you all next week.